Good Sunday morning, everybody. A couple weeks ago when Hal Eisner was visiting us, got to thinking about the good old days and was thinking in particular about the 1970s. It was a time when the word integration was part of everybody's vocabulary, whether you worked in television news or had kids or regardless of where you lived. But it was also a time when the people who delivered the news, they did not even begin to reflect the culture, the race, anything about the people who are watching television news. Thankfully, over the past, 40 years? That's all changed. And in part, that's why we decided that Araxia Karapetian should join us today, because you are yet another big, you represent, and you're another big step in the way television news reflects the people who are watching.
Yeah, I think so. 100% Armenian.
Yeah.
First generation.
And we were chatting a little bit earlier, and I'm sure she's okay with it. A lot of you know Jennifer Bjorklund. She was here for a number of years. In fact, she started her Los Angeles career in television news here. She went on to KNBC. But Jennifer's mother is Armenian, and Armenian was the language that was spoken in the household between the kids and their mom. But looking at Jennifer, one would not know, and she doesn't talk about it much. Not that it never comes up. Mm-hmm. But there's no mistaking your
You can
ancestry.
Kind of tell, that I'm Armenian.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were born where?
I was born in Gyumri in Armenia, and Gyumri is one of the oldest cities there in Armenia. Mm-hmm. And we came to the United States when I was 7. So it's been a while.
And at what point did you speak English or learn to speak English?
Right away when we moved here. So that was 1990, and I picked it up very fast. Mm-hmm. I think oftentimes children pick up the language quickly.
Yeah.
And so I think it just took a few months, and I was getting the hang of it. English was my third language, so I had Armenian, Russian, because Armenia was part of the Soviet Union, and I grew up speaking Russian. Mm-hmm. And so I learned English by watching I Love Lucy. I always tell people that. It's so
So why
true.
don't you speak like a Cuban?
Oh, well, Lucy, I'm home. Yeah, no, not so much. No, I just, I Love Lucy. It was the program that I just grew up watching and I loved, because I think it's a show where even when you don't speak English very well, she's such an animated character, mm-hmm. Lucille Ball, that you still understand what's going on. And so I always joke around and say that's how I learned English, but television certainly played a huge part.
Yeah, and I've heard that story so many times from other people who are immigrants to this country. We actually could do a whole program here on just Araxia's photographs.
I sent you like 100 pictures. I said, Tony, options are a good thing.
They are a good thing, but we collected a few of them.
Okay.
And there's one. It may be the oldest picture, or the one that shows you at your youngest.
Oh, look, Santa Claus.
This is somewhere in Russia, yeah?
This is actually in Armenia.
Ah.
Yeah, this is in Gyumri, and I'm not quite sure how old I am, but I always laugh at this picture because, well, Santa Claus doesn't look like the American Santa Claus, right? He doesn't exactly look warm and inviting and jolly, but hey, that's a Soviet Santa Claus.
Do you remember that picture being taken?
No, I'm too young.
You were what?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how old I am there, Tony, but yeah.
Let's look at another one where you're significantly low.
Oh, yeah. So that's my sister Gemma, and that is me, and I'm in first grade here actually, and I always laugh and say this is my communist school uniform, but really it was this hideous brown dress with this white apron that you had to wear.
But look at the look on your face. There's a sense of, is it responsibility?
I don't know. I think I still have that look at times. My mom says that I have the same expression now, even as, as I've grown up. Just curiosity, maybe. Yeah. Pensive. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the look is.
Maybe. Actually, well, let's look at the next one.
Oh, Easter time.
eggs.
Yeah. And I think it's winter. You see the snow behind us.
Sure.
I don't know how old I am here, but I do know I have short hair. When I was 7 or younger, my parents shaved my head, and so my hair was just growing back.
Was that part of a tradition?
A lot of kids during the summer would get their head shaved.
In East LA as well?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
See,
Yeah.
there's the connection.
They believed it would, your hair would grow back thicker, I think.
Yeah, exact same reasoning.
Thing? Yeah, there you go.
And this will be the last of the photographs, of the childhood photographs. But
Okay.
again, look at that. There's that look. You're not just a kid waiting for the camera to click. There's something going on behind those eyes.
What mischievous eyes?
Yeah, that could be one of them.
Well, to be honest, I knew the photographer was taking this picture, and I'll confess, I was like, I'm going to give him a picture he wants. So I looked over and gave that look. I knew what I was doing.
There you are. So you landed here when you were about 7, and you went to high school.
I grew up in Palos Verdes, Palos Verdes
yeah.
Estates, went to Palos Verdes Peninsula High. So grew up in a very much American environment.
And was there the kind of conflict that's often seen with immigrant families where they're either pushing you out to be totally American or they're kind of holding you in and they want you to keep the old customs?
Within my family?
Yeah.
Not really. My family, as traditional as my family is, they're also very open to things and embrace new customs, new changes. So even in my life now, you know, my core and my root is very much Armenian, and I think people wouldn't know that looking at me when they look at the outside because I'm very much Americanized. But I think it's important to take the good from each culture, and just blend it into one. And so it's kind of the attitude my family had, I think, all along.
I'm wondering what your teenage years were like because there's so much peer group pressure. And did you have an accent at that point in time?
I don't think I ever had an accent, to be honest. I'd have to ask some people that, but I don't think I ever had an accent. Again, because I grew up in Palos Verdes, there weren't many Armenians. As you know, huge Armenian community in Glendale, Hollywood. But in my environment,
just for the record, let's not forget Montebello,
and Montebello,
which
of
is where
course.
my initial grew up
Yes.
around a lot of Armenian kids.
Yes. So because my environment was so American, I think just never developed an accent.
But were you exotic?
I don't know if I was exotic. I think in the beginning, let me tell you how much I hated ESL, English as a second language. I had to take that in the beginning because English was a second language, a third language. And I remember my goal was to try to get out of that class because I wanted to blend in with everyone and I didn't want to stand out in that way. And I hated going to that class, and eventually I got out of it. And just throughout my childhood, I was always trying to blend in and be a part of everything. You know, looking back now, I played soccer for AOI, so I hate soccer. I didn't even enjoy it. I went to CCD, Catholic school. I'm not even Catholic, but all my friends were doing it, so I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do it too. I did everything to kind of just keep up with everyone and everything and not be left behind in any way. And so I was very social, developed a lot, you know, made a lot of friends, and quickly reached whatever it was I was trying to reach.
My suspicion is that you are a woman of the world would be a way to put it in a respectful sense, in the sense that you are comfortable in many, many cultures, many environments.
Yeah, I am, which is important for this job, right? The
Sure.
job that we do to relate to people in any circumstance, any situation. You go out on a story in a different neighborhood, dealing with different people. So you have to find a common language with whoever it is you're dealing with. And I think I'm pretty good at molding and changing myself, making other people feel comfortable so that in our case, we get that interview, we get that story. But I think it's not just about, you know, meeting your deadline. I think I hope I do have genuine interest in people. So when you make that connection with other people, it is genuine, and they feel that and they sense that.
Yeah. Before we get too much further in this, Director Steve, there's a black and white photo of 3 men that we should see before we
Yes.
move on a little bit. There they are. Tell us who they are.
So my grandfather, and then my great uncle and my other great uncle, and these are the 3 brothers. And we'll show another picture I know coming up later, but basically.
We can do it next.
Oh, sure. And it's actually quite fun to see. So my grandfather's the one in the red sweater. And then in the middle is my great uncle George Orapabik. he actually brought us to America. And then next to him, who my great uncle passed away, Yasha Bobik. Bobik is grandpa in Armenian. So the three of them, it's funny, right? The white hair, the mustaches, and Uncle George in the middle. He came to America after World War II, kind of the American dream, built himself out of nothing, became very, very successful. In fact, he hadn't seen my grandfather until he was 13 when he saw him before he went off to war, and didn't see him until in the 40s, until he was 40-something years old. And so in 1990, when communism was falling apart in Armenia, we went into war, a conflict with Azerbaijan over some land, and there was a big earthquake in 1989. All those reasons combined, he brought both of his brothers and all of their families over to America. And so he really has made everything possible. Why I'm here today, what I'm doing, he's the man behind all that. So can't ever forget that.
And as I listen to you, I'm thinking about conversations we've had over you've been here a year at KTTV?
A little bit over a year, yeah.
Think about all the conversations, and I remember asking you once about how proud your grandparents must be of you.
They are very proud, and I'm just, every morning that I wake up, quite honestly, before the morning show even begins, I kind of take a moment to realize what I'm doing, where I am, and why I'm doing it. And they made a big sacrifice, a big decision to come to this country, and it's difficult. I can't forget leaving behind everything you've ever known, the reputation you've had in your own country, and coming and starting from scratch from nothing. And they did it for their grandchildren, and I'm the oldest grandchild, so I feel like it's my responsibility to be successful, and I'm doing it for them.
I have this gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach that it's time to take a break.
Oh.
But we need to talk more about that sense of responsibility.
Okay.
Because I got to tell you, you're not petite in height, but you're very tiny bones, and yet, as we were saying, this petite little sparrow-like kind of character, and you got this tremendous weight on your shoulders. But we'll talk about that after these messages.
Too darn hot. Too darn hot. Like to suck.
There's our website, myfoxla.com, and it's really Roxy's website.
What?
Fill the cup.
Not my website.
Well, but that's where people can go and find you, and I'm sure there's a lot
yeah.
there's a lot of people looking for your work there. You're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Twitter, yep.
They're
Common spelling Aroxia, my Twitter handle.
You can see that she's enjoying herself, ladies and gentlemen.
Which is a good thing, because I told you, Tony, I'm feeling a little nervous.
Well, we'll talk more about that when we come back right after this. One more break. This is Midday Sunday. Our guest today, Aroxia Karapetian, who needs no introduction, really. You mentioned during the break that you're feeling nervous. How come?
I'm not used to sitting here and having you ask me the questions.
Or anybody else asking
Or anybody
questions.
else. And also, I don't know, just the focus is on me, and I'm a little uncomfortable with it.
All right, well, you may get more uncomfortable, because I wanted to go back to
Yes.
Part of the reason that you left her was because of the earthquake. And I raised the issue because you were not born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I mean, your family, you worked. Everybody worked. And you went through a tremendous tragedy.
Yeah, I was young. I'm trying to remember if I was 5 or 6. I think I was 6. I was in kindergarten, but I remember it really well that day. And even now, when there's a little shaker here in Southern California, or a big shaker, I get really nervous, and I think back to that day. I have flashbacks of just, bad scenes. But not the funny thing, but the sad part of this is the last time I went back to Armenia was in 2006, and there's still parts of the town that are still in ruins from the earthquake in '89. And you walk past the building, and you know, you see a curtain still blowing in the wind and it's so haunting, or you see a picture hanging crooked on a wall, as if the earthquake has just happened. And there's still certain parts of town that, you know, that memory is still there.
You were disconnected from your family for a little bit right after the earthquake? In the sense that you were one of the last members of the family to be rounded up?
Right.
Found?
I was in kindergarten, as I mentioned, and my family was going around gathering everyone, you know, looking for survivors, I guess you could say. And I was one of the last kids to get picked up from school. And my mother describes seeing me, you know, covered in dust, and there was just tear marks leading the way, and I was just waiting for them to come get me. It was very, very, very chaotic.
Bringing the time forward, we were talking in the newsroom some weeks ago about speaking. You were going to be the mistress of ceremonies
Yes.
for some event in the Armenian community.
Yes.
But that created some dilemmas for you.
It was. I was very, nervous because, first of all, I don't do very many public speaking events. I'm doing more now, and it's very different from being on TV. So people will always say, why are you nervous? You're on TV all the time. It's very different than having all these people stare at you. I'm just looking at a camera. I can't see you at home. I don't know the looks you're giving me. So I was nervous for that reason, and also because it was an event where you had Armenians from Armenia, from Lebanon, from Syria, from different parts. There's a joke we have, you'll find an Armenian at any part of the world, you know. So, and each of them want their name pronounced a different way, whether it's the Americanized version of their last name or the Armenian way or the Lebanese way. And so I was just very nervous because I wanted to get it right. And I don't just, you know, I take whatever it is that I'm doing very seriously, and I study it, and I want to perfect it. And yeah, you caught me when I was going over the names that day, I remember. I was so nervous about it.
So if we were in Armenia or in Russia, how would you pronounce your name?
Karabedyan. So
The whole thing. The whole thing.
Araxia Karabedyan. So I don't say that. I say Araxia Carpathian.
But why not?
I don't know. Can you say Araxia Karabedyan?
I could if I had a little time to work on
That's
it.
what I
But one of the things that I like to do as a journalist is to pronounce people's names as closely to
Right.
the way they pronounce it as I possibly can.
Well, there's letters that me by saying that name, just we don't have the English letters for it. G. We don't have the G and the Z and, you know, that kind of thing. So.
So we were talking before the break about you, this little sparrow of a body that you have,
Right.
of a presence that you have, but yet, you know, you are the role model for lots and lots and lots of people.
Yes, I think you're right, and I say that not because I think, oh, I'm so important, I'm so great, but here in California, in the LA community, there's lots of Armenians, and I think many of them haven't ventured into this field. I think I'm one of the few.
Certainly
you know.
on camera.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I want to be a good role model, and I want to also encourage people to go off and pursue whatever their dreams are, other than being a doctor or lawyer, because that is the number one thing you're told when you grow up in an Armenian household, be a doctor or lawyer. Sometimes they throw in a teacher, but so I'm kind of breaking that mold. And oftentimes I get approached by young people who always say, you know, they're struggling with that. How did you do it? You had to go to a small town to get started. How did you leave your family? Armenians are very family oriented. And these are things that I hope to help them out with.
Since you brought up the
Yeah.
topic of going to small towns, we've got some photographs of
Oh.
you working in goodness knows where.
Oh, that's Coin. That's Portland, Oregon. This was good. This was great.
And there's snow on the ground.
There is snow on the ground, which doesn't happen all that often there. But yes, this was where I was before I came back to LA. I was in Portland for 2 years. Great city. Loved it.
And I think we've got photographs of some places
Oh, this.
before that.
Yes, Idaho Falls, Idaho. This was my first job. And this was a bit challenging.
Yeah, but you can see, just look at you, you can see that you're at heart a Southern California girl.
Yeah, right? It's true. There it is, Idaho Falls, Idaho, anchoring the weekends there.
And what was that like for you, having to
To go
pick
to
up
Idaho?
and move away from your family?
It was definitely difficult, and I was just so determined to do it. And once I start something, I don't stop. So once I was there, I was just going to deal with it. The winters were horrific, -20, horrible wind chill. And at the time I was a one-man band, and for those of you at home who don't know what that is, it's when basically you're the reporter, the camera person, the editor, you do it all. And so being in those conditions, working outside was very difficult. And Tony, there were many times I would just, I'm driving to a store, I would say, you know what, I'm just gonna pull over, slash the tire, and then I don't have to finish this assignment. But I got through it. And it was hard being away from family too.
And you were in places where there are not, look at how nervous she is.
I know, right? I can't stop moving.
There were places where Armenians are not not commonplace at all.
Oh, right.
Did you have to explain yourself?
Oh yeah, they would say, where are you from? What's your background? Say Armenian. They're like, what's
What?
that? So I took a map with me. I would take a map with me and I'd say, this is where Armenia is, and I would show people. So they learned.
We touched a little bit earlier on the cosmopolitanness of the fact that you move and feel comfortable in a lot of different places, a lot of different cultures. We've got photographs of what I'm sure a lot of people would think is the luckiest man in the world,
Oh,
your husband.
oh yes.
Yeah, look at that.
Who's a very private person, the exact opposite of me.
Which is why I selected this photograph.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I think he appreciates that.
But there's something I guess we should tell people about your husband, in that first of all, he's not Armenian.
He is not. Yes, he is not. Oh well. He's Persian.
Was that difficult? For the family?
No, maybe a little, but I've known him for about 13, 14 years, so they had a
which is half
long
your
time to
life.
get used to it, right? Yeah. I guess I broke the mold in that sense as well, but I'm the first granddaughter, so I'm the one doing everything first. He's not Armenian, but our cultures are very, very similar, and the values that are very important to me are very much important to him, like family, the importance of family, and just our outlook on life and just certain issues. And so I think when your core and your foundation is alike, then it doesn't really matter what his background is.
With all due respect to your Armenian ancestors,
Yes.
the Persians, who have also had a lot of opportunities to be around, I don't know of a culture anywhere that cherishes, that's the important word, that cherishes their children more than the Persians. Everything is built around the kids.
Yes, again, it's very similar to the Armenians. So we just understand one another very, very well.
Shall we show one more photograph of you and your husband?
Sure.
And again, it's
I'm
one
wondering which
that
it is.
allows him.
Oh no,
No, there's Mom.
that's my mom.
And your
My mom
sister.
and my sister, yeah. That's my sister Gemma, and then my mom. This obviously is the wedding day. Yeah. Tony, I got married a week before I started working here.
Yeah.
It was a very stressful time.
Do you see Saul? He's giving us the sign. We got to get out of here.
Okay.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment. That huge sigh of relief you just heard, that's Araxia realizing that we have simply run out of time. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks
Thanks
Tony.
for all that you do
Thank
for us.
you for the opportunity.
Sure, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. So,